Hi everybody, welcome to the Spodcast, episode 3. I still hate the name, but I'm not gonna fucking redo the intro thing every single time, so we're gonna stick with it. We have become the Spodcast, and it's all your fault.
I blame Chris.
I think he's the one who came up with it, so yes.
Hey, I gotta go. Podcast's over for me. My grandfather's calling.
Are you fucking serious?
He is calling. I'm not gonna answer. I'll call him back.
Doesn't he call you on, like, Thursdays?
No, we do Saturdays now. But normally we record later, and I forgot that we do Saturdays now. He can't remember on Thursdays. I don't know what's wrong with him, like why Thursdays are bad.
I'm surprised he can remember on Saturdays.
Did I tell you what he keeps doing, though? Oh, shit, I edited my recording. Did I tell you what he keeps doing, though? He keeps calling me. He'll go over to someone's house, like one of the other family members, and he'll call me and be like, hey, I just got here. And now everyone's gonna hate me because every time Grandpa goes anywhere, all he does is go and call me.
So, not to spoil things for you, but that's what he's doing right now. Because I talked to him earlier, and they were going over to Caroline's birthday.
No, everyone's
so
gonna
he's totally
hate me.
calling you from there, from a social event. Caroline being a cousin of ours, we're totally off topic here, and everybody's like, "What the fuck is all this stuff?"
To be fair, take that, Caroline. We're rivals, so.
Chris and Rutskarn are out for a variety of reasons involving not wanting to be around this. So we have Alex here as a guest member of the podcast. Might see her around more often.
Hey, I decided to be around here for this.
Yeah.
Josh, nobody sees any of us, so...
Shh. Especially not me, but yes, you're correct. But that's
you know what it
beside the
means?
point.
You know what it means that Ruts and Chris aren't here today? It means I get to talk. I get to talk more. I get to talk at least one person more since there's only 3 of us instead of 4.
Okay, so Glitch has been removed from the podcast, and Alex is here. So, Alex, you run a journalism blog publication and podcast at firstpersonscholar.com?
Yes, that's correct. First Person Scholar.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're a game studies publication that runs out of my university, and we publish essays and less scary things sometimes, and we talk about other things on the podcast, such as anime Tiddies, and we try to be fun. But ultimately, it's a middle state publication, so it's like a mix between journalistic style writing and academic writing, which no one wants to read. So, we find the nice balance between smart and, fun.
Hey, Alex,
are we talking...
I have a question for you. No,
Shoot.
Me first. Do you have an opening on your podcast that I can join you on your podcast?
I don't know. You've gotten a little rowdy already. I don't know.
Damn it! You have anime
This
Tiddies. Why am I here in this podcast? If there's a podcast out there that I could possibly be, no, we can't.
We can talk about anime Tiddies
All
right now.
If you want,
you can't
to see
just
anime
join
Tiddies,
our club with anime Tiddy right off the back. You got to work your way up.
Damn. If you want to see anime Tiddies, click on Josh's face right now. It's annotated. Click on
God
Josh's
damn
face.
it! I am not putting my face on the fucking podcast.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption. Click on the face.
We were sitting around here trying to figure out what to talk about for the podcast, and then we just said, fuck it, why don't we just record us talking about what to talk about in the podcast? So here you are. I hope everybody's happy.
Way to get meta about it, John.
People appreciate that kind of thing, I think. And if they don't, fuck them. Anyway, I guess we can talk about news, which consists pretty much exclusively of Far Cry 5 was announced and had some trailers.
I watched it once and have never played any of the games, but I have seen Let's Plays, and I think that makes me the most qualified person in the room to talk about it.
Obviously.
I thought it looked a little generic. What's up with cults being in right now, like church cults in the country?
So, like, you saying
like
it
Resident
looked
Evil...
a little generic is like the highest possible praise you could give to a Far Cry game, so...
I wouldn't know. But it's interesting because, like, I think Resident Evil 7 kicked off this theme of, like, we're in rural United States, in the bayou or whatever. Now...
the majority of the Resident Evils have been in rural states locations, so...
I don't know how true that is, but I haven't seen any of those trailers, so I'll have to get back to you when I'm done watching all of those.
Go watch the trailers for Resident Evil 1. Get back to me.
Let me see. But, rural America with a cult. Wow, that's something that's not being done by everybody right now. Like, I wonder if, like, everybody at the head of each game studio is, like, calling each other up, like, we gotta come up with something to do for our next game. Church cult?
It's Ubisoft. I mean, when was the last time they did something really experimental or interesting? They finally did a fucking Assassin's Creed game in, like, ancient history in Egypt. Like, they're doing that now. That's, I think, has been officially announced, so I'm not 100% certain if it actually came out or that was just a lot more leaks.
The reason that they wouldn't have done that before is Prince of Persia, right? They didn't want to step on the toes there.
Well, then how many things are there to actually climb? It's mostly desert, right?
I mean, well, Prince of Persia is actually the same devs who, or at least I think some of the same devs who ended up going into Assassin's Creed, and it's the same, like it's also a Ubisoft thing, so I don't know. Yeah. Like, I guess the argument about stuff to climb in Egypt kind of, like, I mean, what was there to climb in Assassin's Creed 3 in, like, newly settled, well, not newly settled, but, you know, colonial America, and they managed to find stuff for that.
Climbing the social ladder.
I don't know how much climbing the social ladder there was in 1770s America, actually.
It's the fantasy of the video game. You too can live out the murderous cult in rural America for the first time ever before.
I tuned out for a second there, and you're saying rural cult in America, and I don't know what game we're talking about. Because there's other games that have the same... Are we back on Far Cry 5, or is ancient Egypt now in 1970s America?
1770s.
1770s.
Well, you know it's an edgy cult when people are writing things on their arms. That's how you know you're in for some hardcore shit.
When you've carved it into your arm with a knife.
Yeah, you know, if you're a Jim Jones kind of preacher dude who owns a town, do you really need sandwich board end is nigh people standing around proclaiming that? Like, one imagines you're past that point when you have a cult that runs the whole town. I don't know if I'm disappointed or confused, because, like, I didn't pay much attention to the trailer when it came out, because, like, it's Far Cry and who cares. But on Twitter I was seeing people talking about it, and the way it sounded to me was like it was going to be some sort of very, like, on-the-nose political commentary about, like, Brexit and Trump and stuff, and like, oh, this is what it means to be in Trump's America, and like...
we figured out why that's a trend right now.
It's not that at all. Like, regardless of where you are on the how you feel about Trump and that kind and Brexit and that kind of thing, like, it isn't. It does, like, it's just like, oh, this is rural Montana and a Jim Jones or like kind of preacher guy runs a cult and has a militia. And I guess I could see how you could make some connections between that and certain modern political situations, but, like, it doesn't seem like that's really the the main focus of the game. So I watched the trailer and I was like, what? This isn't what I thought it was going to be at all, which I guess is a failure on my part to do any kind of real research, but...
Well, I mean, they're probably playing on the fact that you assume that, because you're like, this is the edgy one. Soon we will be edgy because people will care about Americans and American issues.
It's a lot less bold of a statement than I was expecting from what I was hearing on Twitter about it. I'll say that much. I don't know. I don't remember what Far Cry 4... Well, Far Cry 4 was about India or something, and I think I played about 45 minutes of Far Cry 4, including the part where I streamed 15 minutes of it just to get the non-standard game over ending of, hey, wait in this room, and if you wait in this room for 15 minutes in the middle of the intro, you'll just get to the end of the game and it'll just roll credits yep, that's cool. The main villain will just oh, thanks for waiting. That's the part where you're supposed to break out, and if you just wait a really long time, the main villain will come back in and say oh, thanks for waiting. All right, let's go. And you go and pay respects to your mother's grave or whatever the fuck you were doing there, and then that's the end of the game. So I got that ending, and I played a little bit more on myself. Yeah, I've beaten the game. I did this for a stream, actually.
MLG speedrun any %.
But I was not that interested in the game. I actually haven't beaten Far Cry 3 either, although I played a lot more of that. I did 2 playthroughs that both kind of petered out around the same point, where I just kind of got bogged down in the open world stuff and just never got to the end. So, as far as my, how much I care about Far Cry, I don't know, this setting... I don't know if it's grabbing me in a way that maybe they're hoping it would grab people like me. They're just going to do another Vash character for the preacher guy, right? Except this time he's going to be an old white dude in a church with crosses on his arms and shit.
Yeah, I think there's only so much they can really do with it. I know that one of the people you recruit is supposed to be a pastor, so there's supposed to be contrary religious belief systems happening.
Yeah, so it's not just 100%, oh, religion is bad because here's the cult leader.
And you're supposed to have a dog again. But again, I think dogs are just bad at games because no one wants to see them get hurt, so no one plays them.
I thought we were done with dogs. I thought we had the year of the dog 4 years ago. What with Call of Duty Ghosts, I think it was, that had the dog, and then...
Has it already been 4 years since Fallout 4?
No, it's been
That must have been later, right? Thank God. I was
Yeah, but dog meat has always been sort of a thing with the Fallout games, especially with the Bethesda Fallout
Total tangent, never took the dogs in Fallout. Fuck you. Fuck dog. They're always in the way. They never walk through where I want them to walk through. They're always attacking random shit and then disappearing, and then I feel bad.
Yeah, dogs are a huge liability. Keep them at home. But what there is really funny in the trailer is the random lady running away from a bear, which was just the most random thing because they're talking about crazy religious shit.
That's a very Far Cry thing, though. That's a 100% Far Cry thing to have happen, is to just a bear got loose and murdered the entire world.
But whose bear is it? And is it a cult bear? Or is it there's just bears running around the town?
Check its arm. See if anything's carved in it.
It's got a little cross around its neck, But do they need to do that, though? It seems so... It's do they need a bear? Is that the thing that defines Far Cry? Because I didn't think it was, but...
I mean...
They need a killer animal.
They did Far Cry Primal and then, changed absolutely nothing from their formula despite a completely different setting in a way that totally turned me off from that. So I don't expect... Far Cry is a game where you hunt animals to get animal pelts so that you can upgrade your wallet. So, yes, they're going to have animals in it. I mean, again, this is Ubisoft we're talking about here. their games are made by literally thousands of people each.
I guess when you're making a game with literally thousands of people, it has to end up a little generic. I mean, the pyramids weren't, like, lavish, were they? They're just pyramids.
Yeah, they're just great big stone things.
Yeah, they're just great big, turned on their side kind of squares. You can't prove me wrong.
Big old stone anime titties. Except there's 3 of them and a sphinx.
Damn it, Josh, you're going to get into the Anime Tiddies podcast before I get to.
Let's go.
I guess, like, I'm not offended by Far Cry 5. Like, it's not something that I actively hate.
Are people still offended?
On the level of...
Are people offended by this?
I mean, I don't mean offense in, like... No, I don't know. Probably some. I mean, it's a video game. But, like, it's not something that really bothers me. Like, it's not Battlefield Hardline where I was just kind of sat back and spent the entire development cycle of that game from the time it was announced to release and afterwards going, what the fuck are you guys even thinking at this point?
What did they do? I didn't follow that at all.
It was the Battlefield game where you were police... It was cops versus robbers, right around the time that Black Lives Matter was happening.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I don't think The Division did any, good stuff with that either.
Man, The Division was an interesting concept when it was released. And I knew it was going to suck. I never even paid any attention to it after that, but I like the idea of it. And it
wasn't the netcode a complete train wreck? Like, you could just load up Cheat Engine and totally break the game in an MMO? Like, what the hell?
I don't think you even needed Cheat Engine to break that game, according to the news I was seeing at launch. The game was fundamentally broken.
Well, and then even...
they had the thing where you sat in a lobby and, like, people could, like, everybody had physical collision with each other, so you could just, like, stop up the lobby to get into the game by just body blocking people. Sorry, you were saying something, Alex.
Yeah, it was a damn shame. Oh, I was just going to say, like, they also did the Wildlands, which is, like, this game, which could have just simply been this open world game, but they're like, but the drug trade, here's some documentaries so you get your learning on. And it's like, oh, but, like, you're just, like, not developing those themes in the game at all. And, like, it's not necessarily the most responsible thing.
I paid no attention to Ghost Recon Wildlands, during its development, as it was released, or afterwards. So, like, other people played it. Like, I know Chris played the demo, and didn't really have a good time. I had some other friends who played it and had a better time, but, like, I was completely turned off by everything about that. That was the game that had that trailer at E3 last year glitch where it had that really fake fucking voiceover banter from, like, real players. I'm doing air quotes.
Oh, man.
You remember that one?
Oh, man. They straight up ripped off the car industry. And everyone knows those commercials sell a lot of cars. There's nothing like media that treats their audience like they're stupid that just really makes them unattractive for purchase.
I mean, overall, I think Wildlands is a, like, fun little game that I would never pay full price for like, co-op. But if you pay attention to the story, where you're literally, like, government agents running around just killing innocent people and potential, like, drug collusion gang members, it's real bad. You're just 2 dudes running in there just killing everybody.
I stopped buying first-person shooters for the story. I haven't seen a first-person shooter in it with a story that I was at least vaguely interested in for ages until Overwatch. But even then, like, it's not like Overwatch has the single-player campaign that I'm really super interested in. I'm just kind of interested in the characters vaguely and how they can be a certain age even though they're not that age, and the age differences between people and their events doesn't correlate.
How old is Tracer really?
Who knows? Tracer's the only one you have a real excuse for.
Did you catch the news that the comic series they were going to do on Overwatch was canceled because
If it was because everybody was upset
according to this article anyway, as the quoted reason, because they didn't want to ruin basically the fan idea of what's canon.
No.
I hate it. I hate it when... This is going to sound terrible. People are going to hate me for it. I hate it when developers pay attention to users in that respect. Do your QA testing. Do your QA testing. Don't take any of the rest of it in for anything. Because there's a lot of stupid ideas. And I'm so tired of people being like, well, we don't want to touch this because the fans have their own ideas about it. I don't give a fuck about the fans.
The fans don't even really agree on anything.
Right. It would be like, imagine if Peter Jackson, when he's making the Lord of the Rings trilogy, made the first one, and it was like, you know what? Fans have an idea of how it's going to go. I'm not going to mess with it. Ridiculous.
I think
that's a weird example.
It's the one that I could pull out of my brain.
If Lord of the Rings fans got like free reign to rewrite this, like the Two Towers and Return of the King movies, they would have just have been like 20 hours long each instead of
they would have been 20 hours long with like they would have included the Silmarillion but not written it in any narrative sense, so it would have all just been like 3 hours of narration to start the film just to get it going.
Well, the fan interpretation of the Jackson movies is that everyone was clean.
This is a new reference.
And had blue eyes.
Oh,
well, I mean, they're relatively clean, I would say. And lack of songs.
Oh no, yeah. I was really sad when all the songs got cut.
You know, it's funny you say that.
I didn't hate reading those.
It's funny you say that. Yeah, reading them sucked. I think it's interesting, and this is another opinion people are not going to like that I'm going to say. Okay, so nobody really loved the Hobbit films, so the Peter Jackson Hobbit films, right? I certainly didn't. Maybe there's a lot of fans that I don't know, but not really in my circles. That not many people liked it. I loved the old one from I'm going to get this right. 1977. I thought that one was, and it had all the music
77? In it. I thought it was in the 80s.
It was 77. I thought it was 80s as well, and I almost misspoke, but I looked it up. So it's 77, and they had all the songs in it, and it's the perfect little tiny Hobbit movie. It captures everything that I think the book was trying to say, and it doesn't get bogged down in bullshit.
Wow, that really was 1977.
Love that film. It's one of my favorites of all time. Nobody likes it because
they're
like, the animation sucks, but it's like, it's from the 70s. What do you want? They did do the
Lord of the Rings a year later, and it was like a completely different studio and like completely different animation style. They were doing like rotoscoped stuff, and I should really go and watch that again. But like, I remember certain characters having like characterizations that felt really off. Like Sam seemed super dumb. I don't remember how Frodo was at all. Do you remember vividly the opening sequence? Like the narrative intro where they're talking about the forging of the rings, and it was like live action people behind a curtain with like light projected onto it.
And didn't they skip right to the second book and the second and third book, and they combined the two? Didn't they do that, or maybe they just did two separate ones?
They did the entirety of the Lord of the Rings book and the first half of the Two Towers, and then didn't get the money to do the second one, so it just kind of leaves off in the middle.
But they start the film really quickly. Like they go from it's like the difference between Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. You know how they just skip the whole, like, Full Metal Alchemist, the original took like 10 episodes to get you where 2 episodes in the other one did. That's what it
some
felt
of that
like
stuff was filler.
I mean, sure, but
the movie was only like 2 hours long.
Yeah, it was short. It was nowhere near like the length of the future film.
They also did a Lord of the Rings musical, the short-lived musical that premiered in Toronto and London, and that's it. And it crashed badly We called it Board of the Rings. That was like the headlines.
Oh, man.
It was 3 acts, mostly about Aragorn and Arwen. So...
Of course.
That's a that happened corner. But yeah, video games.
I've heard about those.
Man, the Lord of the Rings video game. Fuck, what was that called? What was that Lord of the
Lord
Rings
of the
video
Rings
game? It was
Online?
so good. No, the good one.
Two
The
Towers
Return
was
of
good.
the King. Yeah, both of those were
I'm
good.
looking it up. It's the only console
Shadow
game.
of Mordor?
It was a really old one.
No, you're thinking about Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
Is that
Those
what I'm
action
thinking of?
games that had
Yeah,
the
they
co-op,
were action
like
games.
the local
I
co-op
loved
stuff. Yeah,
I loved
they
those
were like top
so
down.
much. Yeah, kind of top down 3D. I couldn't remember the name. I didn't actually own them. I went over to a friend's house and I played through both of them like several times. We were obsessed with those
Yeah,
games.
I was there with you.
Yeah, I've done it multiple times with multiple different things. I think you were there when it was like Nick and Lucas, I think, were the first people to introduce us to that. So, those games were the shit. I didn't get Shadow of Mordor. I saw an interesting video series, and I'm going to try to look it up so I can put it in whatever we're calling where we put links. Or just click on Josh's face.
God damn it.
There's a video series talking about why Shadow of Mordor didn't work for them in the Tolkien universe. Maybe Josh, does that sound familiar to you? It was really good critical analysis, but
I mean, I don't remember, but I can take a pretty good guess about why Shadow of Mordor does not work in the Tolkien universe, because it super doesn't.
yeah.
Something not working in the Tolkien universe isn't necessarily a bad thing, though.
No, it isn't.
No,
but
I suppose it is. It
I actually
is a
didn't
little
like-
weird. You didn't like the gameplay?
I don't like Arkham style combat, and that game had Arkham combat, and I did not
agree, and
like
it feels weird to shove that and the narrative from Shadow of Mordor into the Tolkien universe because it's all about revenge and how that doesn't really work.
I mean, I'll be honest, like, on a general level, I'm not terribly interested in grizzled man dude loses his family and wants to kill people, because that is a story that I have seen 100 fucking times.
Man, when are we gonna get, like, a wimpy, like, skinny kid that wants to avenge his family?
I think there are a bunch of those, too, actually.
Damn it. Space Alien? No, that's just Guardians of the Galaxies.
We need
Galaxies.
a wimpy mom.
Now I'm imagining, like, the xenomorph from Alien, like, getting revenge.
Josh, watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2 so I can talk about it on this podcast.
I don't like going to theaters.
I have really insightful things to say about it, though. I don't disagree. The theater experience has changed a lot. Like, maybe it's just because I'm not
Theater
a kid anymore,
experience has
but
gotten prohibitively expensive.
that also is kind of part of it. It's not as big of an obstacle
Also,
for me.
since I've learned how to make popcorn like you can get it in movie theaters, it's kind of removed that last thing of like, oh, this is fun to go
You should
to.
teach me how to do that.
That's really easy.
I don't. There is still some amount of novelty to it for me. I have a theater that I like to go to that's kind of out of the way that nobody goes to. I have no idea how they're still in business. It's the biggest theater in town as far as size is concerned, but there's like never anybody in the seats, and they don't innovate very well. But I love it because there's nobody there. There's been several times like I watched Wreck-It Ralph, my wife and I. Nobody was in the theater the whole time.
It depends on when you go.
great.
Like, you know, like I'm a person that will go to the movies at least once a week, and it's
Wow.
it just you have to find places to go. And I think a lot of the changes, at least here, like in Ontario, where they're adding all these adult theaters where, you know, 18 plus, they serve craft beer because we have a really good craft beer scene here. And that makes it a little bit more of a thing rather than just sitting and watching the movie.
We oddly don't have those in Las Vegas, or at least I haven't heard of them.
I want to try out an Alamo Draft House. I don't know if you were familiar with those, but they sound really, really awesome. I don't have any near me. I think there might be one in Seattle, but still go watch it so I can talk to you about it.
I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy too.
I did, and also didn't. And there's a thing that not a lot of people have caught about it that really bothers me, and I don't have anyone to talk to about it because I went to see it with my wife, so we've kind of gone over it, but then, like, all of the people who would actually want to have that conversation with me, none of them have seen it yet, so.
Chris has seen it. Why the fuck didn't you go talk to him about it?
Because I think I did see it before last time we recorded, but you hadn't seen it. I didn't want to spoil it, because my complaints are spoilers.
I mean, I can step out if you want to take the next, 5 minutes and rant about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or some shit.
I would only need 30 seconds. Though, I don't know if I want to spring the spoiler on people. It kind of ruins the movie, at least it did for me. If you don't pick up on it, the movie is fine.
I'll go and see it this week, and then we can talk about it next week.
We'll talk about it next week. You're on the hook.
It's the homework for everyone listening.
Yeah, do this homework so that I can ruin the movie for you in 30 seconds.
Can we get a Marvel fucking sponsorship spot now? Because we just sold a bunch of tickets to Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh god, we did.
I'm going to have to call
Wendy's
Wendy's about that. I'm going to have to call Wendy's about that. Full disclaimer, we're not sponsored by Wendy's either yet. Wendy's? Hook me up. I love your sandwiches. I went to bat for you last episode.
About an irrelevant thing. We weren't talking about the spicy crispy chicken sandwich.
If I had to order something at a restaurant, I wouldn't order a burger, I'd order the Wendy's spicy crispy chicken sandwich. Turns out they don't like it when I do that in Chili's, but I don't like Chili's, so take that, Chili.
Does anyone?
Dad went there for his birthday once. We went there, and he got a steak. He was the only one who got a steak, and he had to send it back 4 or 5 times that night. And I told him, we can go anywhere. I'm paying for dinner. You can go anywhere. We can go someplace fancy. He's like, no, I want to go to Chili's. So he sends the steak back. By the 3rd time, the manager comes out, and he says, I'm told that there's a problem. Is there anything I can do to help? And my dad, strangely nice for Dad, because you know how he can kind of be with restaurants, how he can kind of get frustrated. He was in a really good mood that night. He was like, you know what? It's just come out burnt every time. I think it was burnt every time, which is weird, right? Yeah. So it's coming out burnt.
It's not weird that they'd get it burnt. It's weird that Dad would give a shit.
I'm just surprised that they would let that get out, because it was really burnt. It was not edible. And so
I guess
by the 4th time, the manager comes back again, and he says, if this is burnt again, I'm gonna kill somebody. He comes back and it's burnt again, and as he's leaving in a huff, I'm like, please don't kill anybody. So there may have been a murder at Chili's that night.
I don't understand how after the 3rd time that steak is plated, no one looks down at the steak and thinks this is burnt. And they've complained about being burnt for the last 2 times.
The reason I'm very confused by this story is not the burnt part, but the fact that my dad, I do not associate discerning tastes with steak and my dad as 2 things that go together, because he likes well-done steaks.
You are correct, Josh, but our parents also do have a good go at restaurants that don't get their orders right. You know this. You know that's a thing that they do. They really don't like it when you get your order wrong. It can be the slightest thing and they'll send it back. No offense to my parents. They're lovely people. They're just bad at restaurants. They don't listen to this, right? Don't tell them to listen to this episode, you motherfucker.
I don't think they care for the profanity, so as long as we swear a bunch, they probably won't listen to it.
Yeah, I think that we probably lost them in anime Tiddies then.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, it is with a D, right? Tiddy. So, I don't know what that means.
It's totally different.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a thing that makes... We're good. We're just talking about video games, Mom and Dad. And I've done my homework, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, you've already seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Exactly.
Can you do your homework for me too?
I can tell you the plot.
It's not really the same thing.
It wasn't terribly complicated. They spent, most of the plot doing the same thing, so...
I mean, this is definitely non-spoiler territory, but they have dioramas explaining the plot. Literal dioramas.
What? Oh, you mean at the end?
No, in the middle. Where they're like, this is the exposition. We'll show it to you in diorama form.
Oh, yeah.
Did they get
right. I was
Deadpool and his, school class to make dioramas for them?
Dioramas. You know, in the moment, I was really not thinking about like him telling like at all the narrative there. So like I was already taken out of it by something I was thinking about that had already happened. Because there was always like through that the whole film, I was just kind of irked a little bit. But is irked still a term? My mom uses it. I don't know.
Yes,
but,
irked is a real word.
Well, I know it's a real word. I just don't know if
now.
it's one that I don't know if it's one that people say anymore. But
well, you said it, so obviously it's not cool anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. But yeah, I wasn't paying attention to how clunky it is to literally have the dioramas explain your plot. I think that was the most plot development of the whole thing, or at least background exposition of the whole thing, was when they actually gave us a literal diorama.
You know, I did actually see a couple of films recently.
What did you watch? Maybe we'll make this into a film podcast.
I saw Logan finally.
Oh, that's a good one. I really enjoyed Logan.
I didn't that much.
Why? Explain yourself. Before we start, though, Alex, have you seen Logan?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so go ahead. Still no spoilers.
So I guess we're spoilers for Logan.
Okay, I guess we are doing
the X-Men film.
You know how it rolls. If you want,
it's hard to talk about Logan without spoiling it a little bit.
So if you want to get past the spoilers, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend, don't watch this if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's a great film. And everyone knows, since I'm the longest running member of this cast, I think, yeah. I've been here for about 15 years. Listen to what I have to say. I have seniority. But go
you're
watch
only
it
11 years old.
I was watching films before I was... How does the twinkle in your father's eye even work? Because if it's, wow, I think it works, that's gross.
Huh?
Anyway, spoilers for Logan.
Glitch is taking this podcast to a place that I don't even recognize anymore.
I told you I'd be talking for an extra person, since we're down by 2. Well, by 1, technically. Why didn't you like Logan, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike Logan. Like, I think, like, from a certain point of view, yeah, it's definitely a great film. It's really interesting as a superhero film with it. But it was so fucking sad and such a downer the whole time.
I really enjoyed the sad. I thought it was really well placed. And, I mean, between the 3 main actors of that film, wow.
Yeah, sure. I almost think they should have made X-23 a little older.
Yeah? It seemed a little weird. I didn't really, like, X-23 was okay in the plot. He wasn't a huge...
The actress for her was really good as far as child actors go, but...
Right, right. Okay, I was thinking for whatever reason, I got X-23 confused with the one that comes out later. I don't remember the name. They both have...
Better Wolverine.
Yeah, he has another X number.
You think they should have gotten someone other than Hugh Jackman to play Hugh Jackman from 20 years ago?
No. I just thought he was a weird element of the plot. Like, I wasn't connected to him as much as I was connected to the other characters. Like, it just seemed like a villain for villain's sake a little bit. But that's fine. They needed
that's kind of how all the villains in this movie felt. Like,
it's kind of how all of the villains in the entire X-Men franchise have felt to me.
All the villains in Marvel have felt, aside from, like, Loki.
Loki was the only one that actually felt like he had any,
Well, I guess Guardians of the Galaxy 2 as well.
Really? You thought that the villain from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was intriguing?
But he had a little bit more than, like, I'm in space and have weapon.
That's true. It was a little less Star Wars Death Star and a little more weird.
There was something happening there, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, Josh, we're not going to talk about that, Josh.
I spent most of Logan feeling, like, really sad about everything that was happening. Like, the first third of the movie was pretty, like... was fun, and you had Patrick Stewart swearing a lot, which was always fun.
Crazy old Patrick Stewart.
But once they get to the farmhouse, everything is just like downer all the time, like all the way through the end of the movie.
It definitely drags on at that point.
Like the third act. And the third act was like a little weird in structure compared to the rest of the film.
Well, and you start to pick up really fast what's going to happen.
Right.
Right,
Like, you
exactly.
know immediately what's going to happen before, like, even X-24 shows up. You know exactly how it's all going to go. You know, they very explicitly set up, like, everything with the adamantium bullet and everything before that.
But I like that they also didn't try to make it convoluted for the sake of seeming smart. Like, they didn't have a bunch of twists. They did have the one twist with super weapon Logan that comes and kills Xavier.
He felt a lot like Deadpool from Wolverine Origins,
right.
or X-Men Origins
But
Wolverine,
the
or
twist
whatever the
being-
fuck it was, where...
The twist being that you think that it's Logan over him.
Yeah,
over
that was a
Xavier, and
good
it's not.
twist.
That was a good twist, but like none of the rest of the film like tried to be too heavy-handed and like secretive. Like, I hate the superhero, we gotta figure out who's behind this nonsense, or like even in Age of Ultron of like, oh, we gotta go chase down this guy and he's somewhere in the world and we don't know what he's gonna do next. It's like, just stop. It doesn't need to be this overly complicated mystery. We don't need to like have to figure out what the big villain's master plan is. I don't like the structure of superhero movies, I guess, in general, which is why I'm not a huge fan of them, but I felt like Logan really broke that mold.
Well,
and I
Logan
liked
is
it for
like
that.
barely a superhero movie, and I think
Exactly.
I think that's the reason like everybody super likes it. Like, it's R-rated. Fuck, what's the name of the guy who plays Wolverine now? I knew it
Hugh
5
Jackman.
minutes ago. Hugh Jackman took a pay
Hugh
cut
Jackman.
to make it an R-rated movie. It's,
Well, yeah,
you
he
know,
really poured
Patrick
himself into this
Stewart
film.
really dug doing everything with Professor X to the point where he's like, yeah, this is the end of the role for me. So I do respect it on that point. I just like, it was a really sad film. Like, it was not a happy film at all. And films can be that way, you know. One of my favorite films is Schindler's List, and
Oh, dear
that's
God.
a really sad film, and I've watched it exactly once for that reason, but I really respect it as a
I know
achievement
its
in
entire plot.
filmmaking.
I haven't watched it yet. I've been.
You know, it's not the
Sounds
kind of
heavy.
film you go and watch often.
No, you don't just sit around on a Saturday night and be like, well, let's turn this baby on. I know it's on Netflix now.
Yeah.
And they're like, you want to watch this, right? And it's like,
Oh my
no.
god, it's on Netflix.
Netflix and chill with Schindler's List. No, thank
Christ.
you. The Road. I think that's the darkest film I've ever seen. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so maybe it's not as bad as I remember it, but it was grim. I don't know if anybody here saw it. It was kind of niche. It had a... Oh man, I'm gonna mispronounce his name if I try to do it, but Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tying it all back together. The
Yeah.
nice clean boy.
Yeah, and that's our segue. No, that movie's about a father in sort of a post-apocalyptic situation where it's not zombies or anything. It's just they don't really get too much into why or what caused it or like how it happened. But essentially, there is no more sun, at least not very brightly. There's some shots where there's like it's kind of blue in the sky, like an overcast day. But something has caused essentially the sun to be blocked out. Whether that's nuclear fallout or what, we don't know. And it's just a grim story about this guy and his kid trying to make it to a place that may be safe. And it does not pull any punches.
That actually reminds me of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Maggie.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't
Which-
imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger acting in a movie like this.
He
Are you
actually
serious?
does a pretty damn good job. I mean, it's always really hard to separate Arnold Schwarzenegger from his characters, but he does a lot of like actual real man acting here. And that is a movie about Arnold Schwarzenegger has a daughter in a zombie apocalypse, and his daughter was infected. And the whole movie is basically dealing with that.
I think that Logan is at least an important movie in kind of the whirlwind of superhero movies that we're seeing.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
setting the precedent for that kind of thing.
It's the anti-Avengers. Like, it's exactly the opposite of what you go into and get from, like, an Avengers movie.
And
Well, I
I'm
think that's why
tired of
people-
mindless wrong.
I think people like
superhero.
Batman for that reason, right? Because it's not about superpowers, it's about the people. And, like,
Yeah.
Nolan kind of stripped it back a bit, too. But, you know, ultimately, people are here for the characters and not for lasers for, like, half an hour at the end.
I was
Someone should
describing.
probably tell Zack Snyder that.
I was describing the Marvel Cinematic Universe recently. This is kind of how I see it, and by all means, it's not necessarily a negative thing. But it feels a bit like the Fast and the Furious franchise, except with comic books instead of cars being the main thing, or you know, like the humor is completely different, obviously, but it's still the same sort of like nothing is too cerebral, and nothing gets too deep. That's what I feel like when I watch a Marvel film. Like I don't feel really compelled by any of it. It's just a movie to watch.
It's a movie that was made so that everyone can experience it.
Right, exactly. And that's not a bad thing. It's just maybe not something that I'm gonna love with all my heart. You know, it's not a film I'm gonna...
Yeah.
Like, I don't die to see any... I barely watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in theaters, and having seen it, I probably wouldn't again, if I had the choice.
I also recently saw John Wick 2.
Oh, I haven't seen
I've
that
heard
yet.
really good things about that from one person. Because you're the only one I know who's watched it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a John Wick film. John Wick is great. Keanu Reeves is great. Keanu Reeves actually knows how to handle guns, and it shows, and that movie is all about gun fu. It is also actually a lot darker than John Wick 1, which is weird because John Wick 1 was pretty dark. This one is darker than that. Less humor, more bodies, kind of thing. And on that respect, I also am not sure I liked it better than John Wick 1, but it was pretty close. Those films are great just for the cinematography. You know, the work put into getting each shot to work.
Great action isn't simple to film.
Yeah, they don't do the shaky cam. You know, it almost feels like a Jackie Chan approach, except with guns instead of martial arts.
Oh god, not Jackie Chan again.
Not Jackie Chan again, Joe.
Because then we're going to have to get into that animated stuff.
You already ruined my dream one.
I saw Colossal a few days ago, which was very interesting and very hard to talk about because it sounds silly to describe, but it's not as silly as you make it sound when you describe it.
I have never heard of it. Can you give me a brief overview?
I'll try to be brief. Anne Hathaway is a drunk person, and she's here's on the news
My
that
dream person.
Yeah, it's great. She plays a really good role.
I mean, after Interstellar, I'd be a pretty drunk person too.
So kaiju are attacking South Korea, and she's trying to discover the connection between her alcoholism and the kaiju attacking South Korea. That is the skinny of it.
Huh. And it's good.
It's very ambitious. It's worth watching. I wouldn't say it's amazing.
Yeah, it seems a little too far out there for me to actually go and see. I might pick it up on Netflix if it shows up.
Oh yeah, definitely worth watching.
It sounds interesting. I'm not a huge Anne Hathaway fan, but this actually sounds like a role that she might be interesting.
She's just drunk the entire movie. Or hungover.
See, that's my favorite kind of acting.
And monsters. Maybe a giant robot shows up, who knows?
Of course a giant robot shows up. It's 2017.
Speaking of giant robots, that Transformers trailer, with the swords and all that, I'm so checked out.
There's a Transformers trailer? Oh no.
Checked out. I've been checked out since the beginning.
When Sonic did it first, well, I mean, obviously Transformers did everything before Sonic, but, That's all I thought of, was like, remember when they gave Sonic the sword, and now they are giving Optimus Prime a bunch of swords.
It was funny. I did see the trailer for it, as much as I want to pretend I didn't hear anything about it. I did see the trailer for it before Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it was the same trailer as any of the other ones. Oh no, Optimus Prime is in trouble, probably dead, probably gonna come back to life. But did you know that in order for his world to survive, yours has to die? What a twist. I want to see an M. Night Shyamalan version of Transformers where it's billed just like a normal Transformers movie, same trailers and everything, just to see what kind of twist he can put on.
Is Michael Bay still doing those?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my god. How has that become Michael Bay's franchise? Like, the thing that Michael Bay does?
Money. Lots of it.
I guess.
Remember Armageddon? The Rock? You know, now it's just Transformers and Ninja Turtles.
Well, seems like all we have to say about films. Anything else we want to talk about? Suppose we could just go into mailbag stuff.
Sure. Are there any related questions or tangentially related questions to us? Or are they all... Okay.
I could read ones aimed at, like, Rutskarn.
I feel like we should probably save those for him, since they're aimed at him. So, just for everyone listening, next time you send in questions, please ask if Josh can spend some of our budget on getting his face so that we can annotate it on the screen.
Or
Please
wait, would I get paid for that?
Thank you. You get paid the same amount, unless if people want to donate more on Patreon, but that's not one of your goals.
I mean, that would allow me to increase the budget to buy pictures of my face. Which would probably be bought from me.
You have to go to a dealer. Some, like, black market site. Yeah, I need pictures of this guy. Can you get them for me? They're like, sure, we got it. And then, like, a week later, you're like, you get candid pictures of you, and you're like, huh, I remember doing that. And, like, I didn't even know you were there.
Spider-Man took the pictures.
Let's go with an easy one. Dear Cufty and friends, what are some of your favorite food and drink pairings? Sincerely, Funko Wrinkler.
This is a question for Madison, my wife. Madison always, whenever she has the opportunity, she will buy a milkshake, doesn't matter the flavor. Usually strawberry, but you know, if strawberry isn't available, she'll find another one. And she will take whatever food she's eating. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be pizza, it could be a burger, it could be fish, onion rings, lots of shit. And she takes it, she's staring at me right now, she takes it, and she dips it in the milkshake, and then she eats it like that. Like a mad woman.
Delicious!
Did you hear her? Did that pick up? Say it again.
It's delicious!
Yes, it
No,
did.
it's not.
Yes!
So there's mine, because I have to suffer through it.
Have you ever tried it, in fairness?
Yeah, I have, and sometimes the combinations are okay. They're not worth going out of the way to get a milkshake for, but sometimes they're all right.
I mean, a milkshake is its own reward.
The worst part is that she will never finish her milkshake, so I'll be like, okay, I'll finish that for you. You know, as a good husband, I'll finish it for her. So I take it, and I drink it, and then suddenly there's a soggy piece of an onion ring in my mouth, and I don't know what it is, and I'm like, oh, every time. So there you go.
I feel like the flavor of the milkshake makes a huge difference, though, does it not?
Madison.
Yeah.
Madison, is there an optimal flavor for milkshake to dip things in? And does that make a huge difference, or...
I mean, vanilla kind of goes best with everything.
Okay.
But it kind of depends on what you're eating.
Okay. So, French fries.
Chocolate.
Burgers.
Strawberry.
Onion rings?
Vanilla.
Vanilla?
Yeah.
Alright, there's your three. That's your color swath for everyone to enjoy.
Madison has done a lot of thinking about this.
She had. She has to defend it because it's one of my favorite things to tell people. And they're like, "Oh, tell us a ridiculous story." I'll be like, "Yeah, my wife dips everything in milkshakes."
Everybody in the comments are going to be like, "Oh yeah, you don't put stuff in milkshake? What's wrong with you?"
I'll let my wife do that thing. There can only be one. I can't afford 2 milkshakes every time I go out to eat.
It'd be chaos if everyone did it. You know, we need those select few.
We'd run out of milk.
I know I put on the airs of being the dude who drinks alcohol with everything, but I actually pretty much exclusively drink bourbon at this point, and that's not something that you drink with food. Like, by and large. Sometimes I'll do like a bourbon and Coke or whatever, but like... You know, I get bottles of wine sometimes, and wine is good with this stuff that you traditionally pair wine with. You know, red wine with steaks and pasta, like heavy kind of pasta with lots of tomato sauce, and then white wine with like fish and whatnot.
What kind of booze do you put in milkshakes?
I gotta be honest, I have never put booze in a milkshake before.
I have. The answer is bourbon. Salted caramel bourbon milkshake. Google it. Probably the first one. Fucking fantastic.
See, and I was concerned about me sounding like the alcoholic because my answer was going to be a Caesar with the food in it. Which is, like, again, Canadian, but, like, you know, Bloody Marys where you put the pizza in it and the burger and the wings, and so you just have shish kebabs coming out of your drink and you just get a whole sampler.
Sounds so ridiculous.
It's my dream to have one of those crazy concoctions. I'm too lazy to find small pizzas and small burgers.
I like how it's like this is your lifetime quest, I'm imagining, but not quite enough of a quest for you to really bother like going out of your way to make those. But if you ever did find those things, it would be like the end of the world for you in a good way.
That's right. It's like a chair dream, right? It's you sit in your chair and you think.
So when you say a Caesar, are we talking about like a Caesar salad?
Oh, yes. So a Caesar is like a Bloody Mary, except instead of tomato juice, it's clamato, which is tomato juice with clam juice.
Right.
And you typically put in Worcestershire sauce and spicy sauce in with it.
Okay, I could get into that.
It is very
I was thinking
delicious.
like a Caesar salad where you replaced like the vinaigrette dressing with bourbon or something.
I was thinking the exact same thing, and then you're like, and then the food's in it, and I'm like, what?
Or depending upon how much of an alcoholic you are, just like put a Caesar salad in a bowl and then just like buy a bottle of extremely cheap Sam's Club vodka and like a 1.5 liter bottle and just pour the entire thing in the bowl with the Caesar salad.
Oh my god. No. You guys are +1 Canadian now because you know what a Caesar is. And a lot of people think it's gross, but you know, it doesn't taste like clam. It's a very decadent nice
right
drink.
It's like putting it's like a dirty martini. It doesn't make the martini taste like an olive when you put martini, or when you put martini juice in the martini. No, when you put olive juice in the martini.
Although olive juice does go great in Caesars too.
Although as far as martinis go, I prefer Manhattans, and those don't usually have anything to do with olives. So
very anti-olive.
I've never really liked olives, actually. Like, either variety of olives. And it's weird, because I love olive oil, but I don't like eating, like, actual olives.
That's not weird at all.
Olive.
Olive oil is very different than olive.
It's not that much, though. I mean, extra virgin olive oil has a taste pretty similar to, like, olives.
Yeah, but you're usually cooking with it. I mean, unless you're doing the Italian thing of dipping it in bread.
You don't cook with extra virgin olive oil. No, that thing has a smoke point of like 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The thing will like ignite. Well, it won't ignite, but it'll turn into the horrible.
That gives me a good idea for a prank. Nothing better, no better prank than one that involves fire. Am I right?
So, what's your food pairing with your olive oil drink?
Oh, I'm imagining that now. Oh.
Just a big old cup of olive oil.
Oh.
Does like bread count as a drink in this? Because I'll take a cup of olive oil and a lot of like an Italian, like a
When could you
ciabatta.
ever use an entire cup of an olive oil in that, though? It's a lot of olive oil.
Okay, a cup of olive oil is pretty extreme. What else we got here? So this one has a request for me to read it in an outrageous accent. What do you guys want?
What about like the Far Cry 5 people? Wherever they're from.
That outrageous southwestern accent. Or eastern? Southern
Isn't it
accent.
set in like Montana?
Really?
They're not going to do like a southern twang.
They had a bit of one. It's that actor that only sounds that one way.
Alright, sure. Dearest Diecast, how does thy membership feel regarding the recent announcement that Blizzard has been working on a graphically enhanced edition of the original Starcraft? Note, if thou hasn't heard, the original game, sans graphic updates, is currently completely free to play. Kindest regards, Sir Noah. P.S. I expect this to be read in an outrageous accent.
You know, that wasn't bad. I don't know what you were going for, but I liked
I can do a southern twang better when I haven't been drinking, but I have been drinking, so I'm like just kind of
So you gotta watch yourself now. You might end up in a new game released by Ubisoft.
God. Jim Jones, but he's alcoholic and runs a video game podcast.
Wait, so is this question old then because we already know that the new version of StarCraft is out or coming out?
Well, no, it's how do we feel about it?
Don't care.
Actually, it was from like a day before we recorded this podcast.
Yeah, I'm not a StarCraft fan. My biggest thing that I know about StarCraft is it killed all of the other real-time strategy games, and that makes me sad.
It didn't really kill them directly.
A little bit. A lot of Command & Conquer's design decisions were made based on the idea that they wanted to get back in the competitive multiplayer scene, and there was no room, so they died.
Yeah, I guess when you get like down to the Generals era.
Well, as a person who managed their own StarCraft team and was big into the like StarCraft 2 esports scene, this is kind of, I see this as a potential for like StarCraft to step back in the game, because as far as we know, competitive StarCraft is just basically not a thing. It was kind of axed, I think about a year ago now, when the GSL, which is like the Korean league, kind of shut its doors. And
when you say competitive StarCraft, are we talking competitive StarCraft 1 or competitive StarCraft in general as a franchise?
I mean, like Brood War was always kind of like, it's always kind of there, but really everything got shifted to StarCraft 2 when it came out. Like that was just Blizzard's choice, right? So more StarCraft 2.
Right. But like StarCraft 2 is still going, right? Like that's still a thing that people care about, at least maybe in Korea.
It's not really.
Okay.
It is, but like basically when the GSL shut down, that was it. So like League is still very big in Korea, and like Overwatch. And like I'm sure there's still tournaments happening, but like it's not on the same level as it used to be. So I don't know if this is their attempt to like get back in the game, or this is just purely like a nostalgia grab for people, but I'll be interesting to see if they do anything with it on the esports side.
Well, the common criticism I heard about StarCraft 2 is that it wasn't StarCraft 1 as far as like competitive stuff went, and I think there was a contingent of people, and I will throw out this disclaimer, I didn't ever play either of the StarCrafts, I know pretty much fucking nothing about this, so I may be totally wrong, but I thought there was always this contingent of people who were like, yeah, StarCraft 1 was a much better competitive game.
I would say that's the general consensus. I think, though, ultimately, being the game that StarCraft is, and the lack of updates, well, the zero updates that happened with Brood War, but the like lack of updates that ever happened with StarCraft 2, it just wasn't a fresh game. I don't think we'll ever be able to compete with, well, you know, what League at the time was updating all the time.
Yeah.
And they have how many characters are in League versus how many races are there in Starcraft, and I know that's not necessarily the best comparison, but eventually you start to get sick of Terran versus Terran, or like, you know, is the Zerg gonna cheese or is it not, sort of like matches.
Did they ever even finish all the story campaigns for StarCraft 2? Because they launched it was like just the Terran campaign, and then they were going to do the other campaigns like later on. I know they did at least one. Did they ever like finish that? Did StarCraft 2 ever end properly?
Yeah, they came out with the... careful, because there's the Heart of the Swarm, which is confusing because they also have HOTS, Heart of the Storm, which is a different game.
Right.
And Legacy of the Void, which is like the Protoss one. So I think that was all they had planned.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's my biggest beef with Blizzard forever now, is just like they have 2 HOTS games. And that's just like, come on.
I always was in a weird place with StarCraft because I was a Command & Conquer guy, and I, by and large, played RTSs for their weird, goofy vein of storytelling, which was largely a Command & Conquer thing, what with its, like, B-movie, like, FMV cutscene stuff. But I kind of always saw StarCraft, and to a lesser extent Warcraft, although Warcraft certainly was not that big, but like StarCraft in particular with its, like, there was a story campaign, there were characters, there was, like, stuff there was meat, but the vast majority of stuff I always heard about StarCraft was a lot about it's like, oh, it's a competitive game with competitive multiplayer, and I was like, I played Red Alert 2, on a casual level in multiplayer for a while, but I was never really that interested in getting any further into it than that. So the idea of like StarCraft as this great big monolith game that was played largely for its competitive nature was always this weird sort of turnoff for me, where I was like much more interested in like, oh, let's see how this universe evolves in a story sense. And as I hear, StarCraft 2's story is really bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, StarCraft is basically the game designed to see how fast you can move your fingers across a keyboard.
Right. That was the other thing I wasn't a huge fan of, was I didn't ever really like micro all that stuff. I liked macro stuff. I was like the kind of person who was really into Supreme Commander in its day, because that game was largely about like the greater strategy of how do I go about attacking this particular thing, and less about like I gotta micromanage 100 tanks and all their special abilities all at once.
Man, all your RTS games suck. Majesty 2 all the way.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that you've been playing this week.
That's all I've been playing. We were trying to figure out what we were going to talk about. Sometimes we talk about what games we've been playing. I don't have a lot of time to play a lot of video games. I've been pretty much exclusively playing Majesty 2, which is a game that came out in 2009, I want to say.
Yeah, you got it.
And if you haven't played it, it's really fascinating. It's like you're running an MMO town where you're the guy who creates the quests and stuff, but it's an RTS, so you have to go and like kill the bases and whatnot of the enemies. And the campaign has various different tasks. It's really interesting. So like you can't actually command your units to do anything. What you do instead is you like mark quests for them to do, and you offer a certain amount of reward for that quest. And if your heroes are inclined, both by like what kind of hero they are, because like warriors, for instance, will go for attack quest more often than rangers, who will go for exploration. Depending on who they are, they'll go and do those quests, and you have to kind of try to figure out how much gold you want to give for a thing, and money management, and you're still building like this base to train up different types of heroes and stuff. It's really fascinating. If you haven't picked it up, I don't know how much it costs, but it's on Steam. It still runs technically.
I hear you have it crashing a lot on you.
If you're gonna play it, if you get the Warriors Guild, there's an ability that lets you summon squires. Don't save until they go away.
Pro tip.
I would want to be the evil town leader that just posts quests about finding 5 apples over and over again.
Like that's all your heroes get to do.
Maybe they'll find 10.
That's funny. You know, there's no real fetch quests. That would have been a funny thing. The game is very 2009 in its writing, so it's kind of old and not like super funny. But I find its humor to be very endearing. It has like a Deckard Cain style of advisor.
Yeah, I seem to remember it having like very discount Sean Connery voice acting.
Exactly. And it's all ridiculousness, and it's very self-referential, and also kind of breaks the fourth wall a lot. Like at one point, he's like, "You know what they say? If we had a Texas Ranger or something like that, some colloquialism I don't know, but it did have references to Texas Ranger." And then he goes on to be like, "My point is, what's a Texas Ranger?" Just that kind of humor. I love that kind of stuff. It's stupid, but I love it.
I remember playing this game for like a couple hours and then getting bored.
It was back before I had a Steam account, I think, because I seem to remember I only could play it on your account, or maybe I had a Steam account, but I didn't want to. No, you had the game on Steam. That's what it was. You had the game on Steam, but I didn't want to pay for it because I didn't have money. And I didn't want to pay for a copy, and then I got really obsessed with it, and I played it a lot. I don't think I ever beat it, because the game is fucking hard, especially when you get into the DLCs. It's so hard. Also, I think that there's some sort of online DLC verification, so you can get, like, new units and stuff that make the DLC more bearable as far as difficulty, but it has, like, the very early DRM bullshit that, like, it can't connect to the internet, so it can't verify if you have those things. So I have to play them with all the default stuff. It's really hard. So yeah, more mailbag or?
We got one more question here that I feel is applicable enough for us to answer. Sam Cribbs asks, how do you guys feel about the new Steam Direct system? How big should a paywall be to submit a game? I don't know if there's been any more news about the Steam Direct thing lately. I think the issue I always had with the paywall idea there, let's back up. So Steam Direct is the Steam replacement for Greenlight that is coming out sometime in the near future, where Greenlight was this weird sort of pseudo-popularity contest where you had to kind of get your game voted onto Steam, but it was pretty easy to game, and didn't really act as any kind of real filter anyway, so Valve was like, okay, we're going to dump this and just like put a fee out there to put your game onto Steam. I think the issue I always had with this was that, like, there are certain indie games out there that have become really big hits that are like one-man studio games, and for games like that, they probably... they might not have become a thing at all if they had had a $500 fee in front of them or something on that level. That's a lot of money to ask someone to just pull together if they're a singular developer and they're making a game and they're probably already like scraping together their savings just so they can buy fucking ramen to survive. Your garage band kind of indie people, they're not going to have a lot of money lying around. I feel like the idea behind that paywall was always to like, we'll prevent, the asset flippers from trying to make a quick buck. But a lot of those asset flippers have a pretty solid system together where they make plenty of money on their last game, enough to get past any kind of like paywall fee, and then they get in with their asset flip, and if the paywall fee makes people more confident in the platform, they might even get more sales before people like really realize what's going on and make more money. I believe their quoted prices was like they were talking about something like they were talking to various developers about what the fee should be without it like really laying out anything solid, and the suggestions from various developers were anywhere from as low as $100, which I believe is actually the current fee to get your game on Greenlight anyway, to like $2,000 or something like that. $2,000 is obviously way too high.
I think it's okay. Why put this up here to get all of an attempt to get all of the asset flipping and the sort of like shitty fake games off of Steam? I get that. There's a lot of Steam greenlight games that I see that go up that are like, why is this here? Sure, if you want to have a certain amount of quality. But something that they will never do that they should do that's a way better system in my opinion is make it judged by a staff, a team that goes in and plays the game. And it doesn't have to be them playing it for long. It just needs to be functional, and they need to verify, like, basically that it's not just a scam. And then you don't need the fee. That's my opinion. But Valve is notoriously bad at, like, they don't hire people to do anything. They don't have any, well, they have some amount of customer service now with the refunds, but traditionally they've been very small as far as that's concerned. And I think they should just hire some people to vet games.
Yeah, I agree with Josh in that, like, there needs to be some leeway for those that are actually legitimately trying to develop something on a small budget and a small team, and allowing them to be on Steam. But I almost wonder, like, is the goal to remove the bad games, or is it to remove the spam, which I think is different, right, than bad games necessarily? Or is the goal just to start making being on Steam more lucrative in hopes that the smaller developers go somewhere like Itch.io or something like that?
Which is kind of a death sentence for... Like, there are certainly people who can make their living on itch.io, but, like, what if Papers, Please had ended up on itch.io instead of Steam? Like, would anyone care?
I don't even know what itch.io is.
It's like a much more open, like, very garage band kind of indie publishing platform.
A lot of, like, game jams will use them for, like, publishing.
And there are some, like, real gems on there, like Anatomy, which Chris covered in a video on his channel a couple months back, which is a game that I really enjoyed. As far as horror games go, it does some really cool stuff. But it's very sort of, like, indie film experimental level kind of publishing platform, and you get the kind of audience that you get for indie experiments at itch.io. You know, it's not a place where you can make a huge heap of money most of the time. I don't know. I think, like, it's a little weird to me, the idea that they could even conceive of the possibility of pushing Steam back to, like, 4 or 5 years ago, where it was heavily curated, and maybe that wasn't even intentional, but there was not a solid process for getting your game onto the store. You basically just had to know someone at Valve, or be a big enough publisher that you could just, like, contact Valve directly and say, hey, we want to put our game on your store, fucking do that. Like, that was a time when it was, like, when you could pretty much be guaranteed to get a lot of money just by getting on Steam, but I don't know if that was a better time for indie development. Like, even taking into account, even accepting that, like, yeah, opening up the store has allowed us to see a lot of this, like, asset flip crap. You know, stuff that Jim Sterling is always railing against. But I do legitimately think that there are indie games that I have played and really enjoyed
that I would never have heard of if they hadn't been able to use Greenlight to get onto Steam.
There's a great article that came out recently on about Valve is not your friend and Steam is not healthy for gaming, and it goes into kind of
to read that article.
Oh yeah, you should read it, because it kind of touches on that kind of thing. It more talks about, like, the history of Steam, and it focuses less on Greenlight and more on the workshop and the amount of labor that goes into that and the very little money that creators get back. But yeah, it touches on like all these things, because that's like a whole other area, like the Dota 2 workshop, right? It's insane.
Yeah. Or even that fucking like paid mods thing they tried to do, where they kept like 30% of it, and then Bethesda ended up keeping like 30% of it, so a mod creator would see like 40% of the revenue that came out of their mod, you know.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh man.
I guess my opinion of Valve as a company has been souring for a long time. So like I'm at the point where I'm ready to accept Valve as like not the devil, but like a company that is incredibly misguided in its goals and tries to do that sort of very, in my opinion, Silicon Valley kind of startup idea of how things should work, where we just got to build a better algorithm and that'll make everything work. You know, if we can just get that better algorithm, then we can get everything to work right and to you know, and we can make everybody happy. And like fucking, I work in customer service for video games. I've seen this. I've been in this industry for 10 years. Like, there is a level where you cannot automate it, and nobody has figured this out. There is no solution to this problem aside from throw people at it, and that is not an elegant solution, but it's often the only way to do it. Like all the horror stories on YouTube about like the automated robot fucking system and going and removing videos that it shouldn't, or causing lots of trouble. You know, these are all symptoms of this kind of problem. If Google has not figured this out, like what chance does anybody have to figure this kind of stuff out?
And the fact that we're even like deferring to one company in the first place to handle all that stuff is scary in its own right.
Yeah. Well, we have actually run out of mailbag questions. Well, we haven't actually run out of mailbag questions, but the other ones are all addressed at like Rutskarn or Mumbles, and they aren't here. So we're gonna close the book on the mailbag for now. Remember, you can send more questions addressed perhaps not at Rutskarn or Mumbles, or, you know, send more questions addressed to them, and then eventually we'll probably just break and read them all without them. To spoilerwarningshow@gmail.com. Ideally, eventually we'll have an email attached to our new website that will hopefully fucking be up by the time that I finish this episode and upload it. I don't know. I've got like the website exists now. I just need to skin it. I need a banner image and some other stuff, and to figure out what the theme is actually going to look like. So hopefully I will be finished with that work after this weekend, and I can throw it up together and
you can go watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah, and then I will somehow have the time to go to the theater and watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2 while you guys are listening to this on our brand new website, which will totally exist. And this is definitely not going to be a YouTube video with me saying all of this and being really embarrassed. Although it will probably still continue to be posted on the YouTube channel, just for consistency. In addition to the website is my plan right now. Well, Alex, it's been good having you along. Thanks for filling in for all of our missing in action people this week.
It was fun.
I'm terrible at ending these things, so Glitch, give us something funny to go off on.
If you want this video to end, just click on Josh's face. It's right there. It's annotated.
No.
That'll take you to our web.
This is like my Lunar dissonance moment. No.
This will take us to our web zone. You can donate to us at that web zone. Just click on Josh's face. It'll be a wild ride.
They don't even know what I look like. How will they know? Like, what if I just put up a bunch of faces and said, like, click on Josh's face, and then they like clicked on all the faces that weren't me.
Listen, you there. Hey, I know you're listening to this. Hey, you got this. Click on the face. You know the one. You got this.
It's
Just
the
click on the
best
face.
captcha ever.
All the other ones will sell all of your worldly possessions for you. Don't make a mistake. You know the face. Click on it and then donate to us because it's worth the risk to donate to us. Just click on Josh's face.
Will we get the money from them selling all of their earthly possessions?
No, Wendy's actually called dibs
God
on that.
damn it.
Yeah.
I told you we don't have a promo spot with them.
I know, but they still call dibs. I can't argue that.
Well, goodbye everyone. Please don't click my face.
You can do it, I believe. Bye.